next session. Like I mentioned earlier, that our afternoon session is all about money, fundraising, how to attract the venture capital to invest in your startup. Therefore, for the next session, we're looking at the bigger picture in the Asia or regional, because the next topic we will be hearing our keynote speakers talking about the state of VC investment in Asia. So allow me to give you a brief introduction about our speakers. She's with a degree from Simon Fraser University. She has served many years in Singapore's government-backed venture capital initiatives, including the EDB investments. She also involved in investing in the local promising enterprises, including journeying with some of the IPO and exits. We are very privileged to have her here. So without any further ado, we will meet with her for this session. And yet again, we will also provide the QR code. If you have any questions, you can click the menu tab, select the vertical room tool, which is this one, and send us an online question. Or after the session, if we happen to have some spare time, we will open for Q&A live right here as well. So ladies and gentlemen, after this session, we still have two more very interesting ones as well. Because today in the early morning, we learned about unicorn, the trends, the innovation, and also by the afternoon, we learn about fundraising and the exits, which is very important to attract the other startup or investor to come to Thailand and complete our ecosystem for the country. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please join me in welcoming the general partner at Vertex Ventures, Southeast Asia and India, Ms. Carmen Yuen. Welcome. The floor is yours. Yes.
Can you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you? Okay, great. Yeah, so let me just test my slides. Okay, great, it works. Okay, all right. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining me on a Saturday afternoon. Very appreciate your time. So let me just share with you on this topic. I have decided to narrow it down from Asia to Southeast Asia. So before we start, this is a picture of the team. And we are a group of 20 people. We are part of Southeast Asia's team for Vertex Ventures. Vertex Ventures is one of the more established, also known as older venture capital funds around the region. We invest in Southeast Asia and India. For the purpose of today, I'll just talk about Southeast Asia. And the next slide shows the kind of companies we invest in. So we do enterprise B2B, we do consumer internet, and overlaying these two verticals, we look at fintech, healthcare, and sustainability, and the subsectors that goes into it. So what exactly is the state of VC investments in Southeast Asia? So when COVID came along, we thought that the investment pace would slow down, and indeed it did, right, for the first half of 2020. And after that, it took a vengeance. It took on a life of its own, and we saw that VC investment has actually doubled up, and it went into a vengeance in 2021. For 2022, it seemed to have slowed down, but year to date, if you were to look at the grey, orange, and blue sectors, the amount of money that has gone into Series B and earlier has actually been on par, and in all likelihood, it will exceed 2021. The ones that has kind of like slowed down somewhat is that of Series C and later, could be of one of two reasons. VCs don't believe in paying that kind of value for later stage companies, or the Series C companies have already raised a lot of money, hence they are sitting on precious gold. When we look at the amount of VC monies that has gone into our region, the bulk of it is actually in Singapore and Indonesia. So, but Thailand and Vietnam has been looking good. They have achieved about 10% of the distribution. Next slide. So what we see is that the median amount of funds that has gone into companies have actually been higher than that of the years before, even though the number of deals have gone down. So what this means is that the per check size is actually higher. Also known as deserving companies deserve a lot more funds. Simple as that. In terms of dry powder, the earlier panel did talk about how we have got a lot of funds, and indeed we have. In 2022, so far year to date, there's already over $7 billion of funds that have been called for. Some have raised, some are in the process of raising. By the time we end the year, it's likely to be higher than this number. So guys, we are sitting on a lot of money. Next, we notice that we have got the mafia guys coming out. These are the second generation of founders. What were they before? They were leaders, they were running their own little P&L in the startups that became unicorn, that became decacorn. They are able to control, and they are also able to empower. And so now when these people have decided to come up and set up their own startups, guess what? The money is trailing them, and they have got no problems raising money because they are able to execute well. So next, we look at the unicorn chart, and I apologize if your logo is not on the Sunicorn. We have got more Sunicorns than we can stuff them in. But we have more than 50 unicorns in our region, so yay to us. We continue to build on this. We need the whole region to come up together so that Southeast Asia becomes interesting as a VC destination. So when we take a look at where the unicorns were formed, 2021 was an anomaly year where we have got significant numbers of unicorns. Are these sustainable? Vertex is still out. We have yet to give them a few more years. Some of them are probably sitting on a lot of cash. We will have to ascertain that they have got good business models and that they are sustainable. But on average, we notice that startups take about 6 years to become unicorns. So let's not be in a hurry to achieve unicorn status. Let's be more focused on building sustainable businesses that can last a long time. If you were to look at the unicorns this year, quota payments took more than 10 years to achieve the unicorn status. So let's just go slow and steady, but achieve that status and continue on that journey. Okay, so where next for VC investments? We have a very young population. On average, our population is at the median age or lower. Philippines is the youngest. In terms of how our GDP is growing, it's growing well and steady, although this year might be a little of a dip. In terms of per capita income, we are all emerging affluence. So likelihood of consumption pattern, very high. Now, when I spoke to some of our LPs, and I showed them the chart and what Singapore and Southeast Asia is like, they are interested but hesitant because to them, Southeast Asia is a mixed bag of many cultures thrown into one. They do not know how to navigate. But for us, this is great opportunity because if our founders, our startups, are able to become the champion in our region, guess what? You will have investors coming knocking on your door. And number two, you will be a very good candidate for M&A. And that is one of the exit models that Southeast Asia is known for. So I will spend the next few minutes just going very quickly on the strength of each of our country. Singapore remains to be a very crucial startup hub for the region. We have done very well in terms of attracting investors, startups, corporates. And earlier on, we talked about how corporates have got problem statement. In Singapore, we encourage corporates to share their problem statements to startups to then find a solution for them. We are also able to achieve a high status in terms of VC funds coming into the Singapore and then goes into the region. Now, with the recent political issues, we are also seeing people moving their businesses, startups come over here, family offices moving down to Singapore. What does this mean? This means that Singapore will have a lot of crunch. Crunch for talent, for office space, for housing, etc. But it's good. Why? Because there will be a spillover effect to the region. So this is good for us. When we look at Malaysia, Malaysia has one of the highest population of banked people. And what this means is that they are very big on providing accessibility in the fintech space, the wallets, credit facilities, investment opportunities for their people because the people are somewhat more educated. Malaysia banks have also issued 5 digital banking licenses, so it will be an interesting space for us to watch how they are collecting deposits and what kind of innovations they are going to undertake. Now, the challenge, though, for Malaysia is that many of these companies are looking at problem statements that's kind of local. And however, given that we still have a unicorn in Custom, and why is that so? Because Custom has decided to look regional in their business. And fun fact, Vertex has got 5 portfolio companies that are founded by Malaysian nationals, Grab included, Patsnap, StoreHub, RPG, and Sunday Insurance, which you all are familiar with. And why is it that they're able to grow well and raise good funding? Because these founders have decided to look at a regional platform or global platform. So something for us to think about. We should look at a regional playing field. And when I look at Philippines, they are one of the youngest nations, so which means that they are probably the go-to guys when it comes to consumer apps, targeting the affluent, emerging working adults. We have also seen that the ecosystem players in Philippines are growing very strong. VCs in there are also coming up, and also global PE funds have taken an interest in some of the local companies. So all pointing very well. Thailand, this is one very unique country where it has got the largest number of corporate VCs. And corporate VCs have taken an interest in innovation, and I think this is excellent. Now, how do we, and we have also seen that Thailand has drawn 5% of the total investment capital, and it's pretty well spread out, not just only in crypto or Web3, but in many areas. So this is really good for Thailand. We have seen a very strong public market in Thailand, and also a very strong M&A opportunity. So Thailand has the platform. Now, what exactly will startups look like here is for you to discover and for you to tell us as investors. When I look at Indonesia, it's probably the only market that can cater to a single market fund. Why? Because Indonesia has got the largest number of unicorns. Hence, remember the mafias that come out? The second generation of founders will be here. And because they've got a large population, they can absorb local market opportunities. And at the same time, Indonesia also has quite a strong public market. So you have got 2 counters that are listed there, probably more in the making. And finally, Vietnam. The government has also changed some of its policies to encourage foreign direct investments. And hence, as a result, you can see how the VC money has gone into the country. While most of it is still in the seed and early stage regions, we believe that because the people are very hardworking, we will see more companies that will raise Series B and beyond. Okay, next, emerging trends in Southeast Asia. What does it mean then for us? My proposition is that going forward, we have actually done a lot of basic stuff. Now, the next thing is emerging young, coming out to work, consumer focus, therefore, in terms of usability of whatever that you're doing, has to be really smooth. User experience has to be smooth. In terms of community, the Gen Zs, Gen Alphas, they believe very much in identification with certain groups. And finally, in terms of revenue, more than one revenue source. So let's look at how it's applied in a few spaces. So in 2020, we saw, from 2020 till now, we saw that there's 80 million new internet users. And over the last 18 months, when all of us were in lockdown season, many of us learned how to use our phones really well, from buying things to having a social media profile to creating TikTok videos, grandmas included. So we believe that all of us are familiar with the reliability of platforms. So do the emerging working class, right? The working population believe that too. But they also want a journey that is friction-free. Hence, for companies that are looking at creating consumer-facing apps, make sure that your user journey, your NPS score has to be really high. They ain't got time for problems and fixing your bugs. And because we have got more than 38 million new middle-income households coming on stream, consumer-facing apps, this is a big market for you. So you have to make sure that your platform is really great. Next, we know that digital is a cheaper way to access consumers, and it's an easy way for you to access them, convert them, and engage them. And also the Gen Zs, they are community people, they are connectors. Hence, the way you will likely reach them will be via your social media apps, via your messaging platforms. And going forward, we believe that for products, it's likely to be community-led products, where the community will talk about what they think is going to be the fashion, the trend going forward. The merchants, the manufacturers have to use data to identify what are some of these trends that is likely to emerge, and then go backwards and fix the manufacturing side. So again, user experience is critical, listening skills is critical. But when we look at the manufacturing aspects and merchants, they will still need to have technologies to help them on the productivity, on streamlining the logistics, etc. But the enterprises are likely also to expect apps and platforms to be user-friendly. Okay, so that's on the consumer side. Healthcare. The first range of healthcare probably came in about 2016-17 when we were talking about the digitalization of clinics and the hours of when clinics are open. In 2019, a bump came along, and that was in the teleconsultation, where we saw many companies raise humongous amount of money at breakthrough valuation. And then COVID happened. When COVID happened, suddenly we realized that the amount of investments that went to healthcare tripled, and people were looking at e-pharmacy, logistics, how to bring care into the homes, and what have you. And so this sector remains very interesting on the back of the fact that GDP that is spent on healthcare is actually very low in our region compared to the OECD spaces. Number of hospitals, beds per 1,000 population is also low as compared to the OECD numbers. And we have got an emerging group of youths that expect fantastic services on the mobile, or when I go to the hospital, I want same treatment, I don't want to have to navigate. So expectation of the youths are very high, emerging working class, very high. And hence, how do we then make use of technology to serve them, to make sure that the experience is similar? Right? And finally, despite having 3 times the investment that has gone into the healthcare industry, we still have more than 60% of the mortality coming from chronic diseases. So why is that so? Is it because there needs to be an app beyond what is in the wellness space and so on that helps to change behavior? Is it because our direct-to-consumer apps are partially great but doesn't journey with us all the way? What is it? So we will be looking for companies that can do life-changing propositions in the healthcare space such that we will have an app that actually changes behavior. At the same time, we are also looking at companies that are able to provide data on us, for us and with us, right? So currently, where are our healthcare data? They're probably in different hospital spots. They're probably in our Apple Watch, on our Aura Rings, probably on the D2C companies where we give up our swab tests and what have you. But what about having data all on ourselves? So this is something that we are looking for. Next, on the fintech side, we believe that the banks will continue to line the skyline of our ecosystem, and probably they will be the ones that will acquire some of our fintech companies. And in the areas of fintech, we know that in our region, many MSMEs are still credit hungry. And so we see companies that are providing, let's say, fintech opportunities in the form of lending. But the question is really, how do you get first-party data? And how much first-party data are you collecting and obtaining? If it is going to be just a sliver of information, are you then merely a feature? So this is one area that we are also looking at, continue to look at fintech. And at the same time, user experience has to be really good. So when it comes to providing loans, you will have to make sure that within 3 clicks, the loan is done, approved. And yet, at the same time, you do not compromise your KYC and also your checks. So how do you go about doing that? In terms of also digital marketing, the reach of it and the supporting infrastructure, we believe that this is where enterprise will come in when it comes to, let's say, reconciliation. Are you going to have people, a room full of folks who will come and reconcile your data, or is there going to be technology involved? So again, on the consumer side, on the enterprise side, user experience has to be superb and fantastic. And finally, agriculture. Other than Singapore, the region around us has got sufficient GDP that's contributed by agriculture, land that is devoted to agriculture. Emerging young are very sensitive about having clean protein, and therefore we are also depending on more agriculture, more plant-based protein, etc. But with Southeast Asia having a footprint where we have got farmers with small farms, and these are farmers who are retiring, how are we going to address their exit stories? Are we going to adopt technology? Are we going to bring in robots? We haven't quite seen a strong value in this aspect. But having said that, we have also noticed that when it comes to investments in the agri-tech, it has grown by about 20 times, 27 times over the last 5 years. Most of the funds is actually into the seed and early stage companies, but in Indonesia, we have also seen funds raised by Aruna, eFishery, and Tani Hub that is pretty significant, so we are very encouraged by it. Sustainability comes in hand with agriculture, as with climate tech. So this is one area where we have not seen too many investments, but we believe that going forward, there will be more opportunities in the sustainability and climate tech space. And so we have shown the value chain for agri-tech, and also most of the investments is in the output or supply chain side or the food production side. But we believe in time to come, we'll start to see things in the climate tech aspect. And I mentioned about exit, right? So exit forms a very critical part for us as investors because we need to make enough money to bring back to our investors to then invest back into startups. Hence, the point to founders is that don't be overly greedy in terms of evaluation because you aspire to be a unicorn. Focus on growing your company really well, and the valuation will come and visit you, and you will have the value that you will desire. Most of the exits in our region is via M&A, so hence you are motivated to become the largest, the bestest in your class, so that you become a very good candidate for M&A. And finally, where do I see this space? I see Southeast Asia as being very vibrant for us to look at from an investment angle, from growing companies and startups, given what I've shared about Southeast Asia countries. We have got a lot of money, so we are in great hurry to deploy to great founders who have demonstrated their ability to execute really well. So with that, I have got our email contacts between Vin and myself, my colleague in Thailand, so feel free to reach out to us. Thank you. Sure, I've rushed through my slides, so yes, 2 minutes left.
So if anyone would like to ask for the question, we open the floor for you. So you can raise your hands and ask our speakers directly. Anyone? Any particular question? Or anything you would like to say to maybe the newbies or the startups in the early stage?
Yeah, focus on having a problem statement that is not too narrow, not too small. We should look at big problems. The world over has got many issues, so look at big problems to solve, but you can start one step at a time before you build into the larger picture. And again, focus on having opportunities or solutions that is not just single city or single country focus. Yeah.
And any current trends coming up at the moment?
So we are seeing a lot of opportunities in the climate tech. So currently, a lot of them are trying to figure out how do you quantify what is carbon, right? How do you measure how much meat I've eaten and therefore the carbon footprint that I'm generating? I think this is kind of difficult. You will probably have to speak enough, write enough, talk enough to educate the market so that we understand the lingo that you are using.
So the venture capital also understand what they're about to invest in, right?
Yes, yes. So we are tracking that space. Yeah.
All right. Any other question? Last chance? All right. Well, I think that's a really fruitful session. Thank you very much. And let's give a big hand. Thank you very much. All right. So let's continue with our next session. Yet again, this afternoon, we're all about fundraising, how to gain the capital, how to also, like, I think we heard from many sessions that we also need to educate or give enough information for the VC as well before they invest. Because after we truly understand each other, I think we can also gather to achieve the common goals together.